Welcome, everybody. I have Jared here, and we are to talk about Twin Suns. This is a really cool format in Star Wars Limited that I experienced a couple weekends ago. So we thought we'd kind of do an intro to the format, some basic tips on building a deck, and it's just a reminder that multiplayer with all card games, when it works, is such a beautiful thing. And
Yeah.
this is why Commander is so popular, is because everybody actually realizes that having that multifaceted, like, hey, what's player 3 and 4 doing? So Twin Suns is 3 to 4 players, so it's not 1 to 2. So we're here to talk some of the basics and kind of go over some ideas for building a deck and what to do and what not to do. So Jared, thanks for hanging out again, man. You're the OG Star Wars Unlimited. We're sitting here talking about this in March. We're like, is this game gonna flop? And I'm happy to be super wrong. I didn't think it was gonna flop. I didn't think it was gonna
Yeah.
be quite the phenomenon it is now. So I'm really excited here to talk about something a little bit different, format wise at least. So we have Twin Suns.
Oh yeah, 100%. So Twin Suns is more of a casual format, very akin to Commander or EDH, whatever you want to call that, the Magic format, right? With
EH is
multiplayer.
such an old school term. That's like
Yeah,
such a modern people
I
like, I'm
used to
sorry,
call it. Yeah, I used to call it EDH. I still call it EDH,
yeah.
but I've been playing Magic for a long time. But anyways, that being said, um, the really cool thing about it is that it allows you to kind of get outside of that box that we build around ourselves when we deck build and try to optimize and play, semi competitively or competitively. And it kind of it forces us into the realm of possibility. Like where can we take the direction with this? Well, the card pool is it's smaller right now, so the deck size is minimum of 50 cards. It's singleton, so no more than one copy of any one card in the deck. You build your deck around two leaders. They have to be both either heroism or villainy, so you can't mix and match the two
Right.
and have that way you have access to all the different, both heroism and villain aspect. So it forces you to choose sides basically, and then you still get one base. So it's kind of cool. You can get theoretically up to four aspects if you have two different colored leaders, a different base, and then of course your whether you're hero or villain, and really broaden the deck building possibilities there. It also doesn't have one initiative token; it has three. It has a standard one, then a plan, and a blast. And plan lets you cycle some of your deck. You take the card, and you can. I think you have to discard one. I have to look at that. It's been a few weeks since I played it, but um, and then blast will deal one damage to each of your opponent's bases, right? And whenever one person gets knocked out, you have one action phase to finish the game, and then whoever has the most life left wins the game.
That's what's so fascinating to me because I'm so used to Commander, right, where you're just knocking people out, and then like, you want to get onto that 1v1. And this is like a twist on that because it's like once the first person's knocked out, you got one kind of round or action phase to finish stuff out. And so you want to maximize, restore as much as you can to your base. What do you want to do? Attack an opponent's base, but you only get kind of one choice there of what you're going to do and how you're going to end up on top. I've played maybe 3 to 4 times and I have not won yet. So I can't say I have some sage advice to give here. One thing that I think I came with some hesitations about is with only about a 250 card pool. I mean, essentially with 50 cards, you're looking at like you have a quarter of all the possible cards or a fifth of all the possible cards in your deck. But fortunately, like so many cards are playable, right? That it's like of the initial first set, like almost every card is like roughly playable, right? Like there's
Right?
no
Yeah.
real stinkers, right? And so it's fun to kind of be creative and deck build a little bit there.
Mhm. And what I've found is that if you say you like a certain theme, so the last one that I built two. One was Vader and Palpatine, but it was a little too OP. Nobody liked playing against it, so I kind of took that one apart and played something more on theme. And I just had watched Rogue One again after not watching it for a couple of years or a year or something like that.
Always great to revisit that film. That
Oh
film
yeah.
rock.
And I was like, man, I'm gonna build Jyn Erso and Cassian Andor. I want to do that. So I built it, And I didn't put like I did put some thought into it with the theme and some of the synergy, but I just kind of said everything that's Rogue One, I'm going to cram it into that 50 card slot and see what I can do with it. And I actually won the game that I played with it, just because even though I wasn't really trying to make it super synergistic in a in one way or another, the themes played along together because of the types of cards that I added based on the color palette I was working with, and it all just kind of it worked together beautifully, and ended up taking that one. But it I like that when you play on theme, it it seems to work out. It's just crazy. I don't know. I'm obviously they put some thought into that. They figured that out early on with that format.
I
In
mean,
my
I'll say that Rogue One, just like some of the best characters in the Force
oh
in this
yeah,
part of Rebellion are from Rogue One, right? So you got kind of lucky, card pool there a little bit. That Rogue
yeah.
One has some of the better cards. All right, but let's talk a little bit about what are some of the things that work well in this format. What are some when you're deck building? Are shields really good, or experience, or ambush? Like, what are some mechanics that work really well in this format?
So anything that can draw you cards and get you through your deck so you can see more of your deck, and anything that has recursion that allows you to pull from your graveyard or your discard pile. Excuse me, sorry, Magic player. Your discard pile and puts it either in play or in your hand. Healing is a lot more critical in this format because at that last action phase, healing is all about I have to keep the damage down on my base, or at the end, I'm just going to flat out lose. And it's just a slugfest. So there's a lot of tricks. Some of the guys I'll see like if they get to the resource point where they can play like Redemption or Home One and get Restore going, things like that. Those are really strong in Twin Suns. So it can actually, help you win the game outright there towards the end, just playing one of those two cards.
It seems like initiative is also pretty important here,
Right.
right? Kind of the turn order because you're sitting here restoring three, and then your opponent is going to have one last action and is going to attack you for five. And so it's sort of very strategic of who goes when and sort of what your play is based on the turn order there.
Right. And, of course, depending on which initiative token you take, like, do you want to go first? Do you want to draw a card? Or do you want to just hit everyone for one? And I found myself taking the blast token a lot, like just,
Mm,
guns blazing like Danny DeVito and that meme that we always see from, what is it, Always Sunny in Philadelphia?
yeah, yeah.
But so I just started blasting. Yeah, that's a good theme. But I've seen some really cool card draw built into them. Another guy was playing Lando and was, checking out the resources, sending resources back to his hand and uh, just stuff you wouldn't normally see in a standard Premier format game.
Well, I think that's the other thing is like these tend to be a little bit longer of games, and I still
Yeah.
always argue that the ideal length for a card game on a 1v1 is like 20 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes. But in a multiplayer format, I'm happy to sit there for an hour and sort of
Oh yeah.
have a bit more of an interesting matchup. If people get bigger engines out, right? And that's one of the things as well. Like if you're playing here for 45 minutes, like you might be able to get those 8, 9, 10 resource cards out. I guess there's nothing 10 yet. But you're gonna get the bigger stuff out. And that just makes it a little more interesting. You get to see a bigger, kind of a broader card pool almost as well.
Yeah, you see a lot more cards that don't see play in constructed so much, like as far as Premier goes. And the games are the time, like FFG says 45 to 80 minutes. That's about right. I think our games typically that we played were right in that range, maybe right at an hour, give or take a few minutes. And I feel like that's perfect. And then it's always fun because you can form alliances. Oh, we'll take him out, and then we'll just punch each other after that, whatever. Then we'll turn on each other, just like Commander. It's a lot of fun to see those interactions too, and usually better with an adult beverage, of course. Um, very social.
All right, so recursion's really powerful on this. What are some anything that's allowing you to card draw, What are some of the things that aren't as effective in this format? Is ramp still pretty good? Like a green ramp? Is that like less interesting because you're gonna have more turns? What are some things that are less effective?
Ramp is you can still ramp, but being that you can only have like one copy of resupply and one copy of the super laser tech and so forth, it limits where you can go with it. And being that it's a longer format, you're going to get to your 7, 8, 9, 10 resources a lot of times. And the real low to the floor decks don't need that. So I mean, you have the time to build your resources if you need to, but it's
Yeah.
not as prevalent because you can't have multiple copies of each one of those cards that turns into a resource. So
What else is something that's maybe not as good in this format that you might think is good in in a 1v1 format? Um,
um, honestly, experience tokens. I started to say experience tokens, but experience. I mean, it's still you're adding you know damage and health points to your characters, so it's like Um, honestly, the themes are fairly generic across there, so it's like nothing is necessarily bad.
mm,
I think maybe the counters, the +1 counters, are a little weaker than they would be. It just doesn't matter as much because there's such a broad area there, right?
I'm gonna make my pick for this, and I've only played 3 to 4 games, but
Mhm.
the less health bases, so like Energy Conversion Lab and Tarkin Town, right? Like that epic action for the 5 life less seems less interesting when you're worrying about three
Oh yeah,
people, not just one, right? Like the whole Energy Conversion Lab, like that can be like almost a knockout punch in a 1v1, but in this,
mhm.
it's like, oh crap, now I have 2 other people to also worry about. So I think that the higher life bases, from my limited experience, tend to be a little bit better than the lower life bases because you just
Yeah,
need 5 health, maybe more than you need the epic action.
yeah. So the rare bases are not as prevalent. So yeah, you're right about that. I didn't think about that. Sorry. Thinking broader here, but Um, yeah, they're just not as prevalent. Energy conversion lab, especially, it can do one thing for you, great, right? You can take something out with it or ramp into a resource, but 5 less health matters a lot more in
Yeah.
this format than it does in Premiere. So
Frankly, it's nice just to see restore and kind of the healing element getting a bit of love because I just think it's not super practical and it's just too slow of an engine from my experience to really be useful.
yeah,
You're sitting here restoring for 2 and they're hitting you for 7 a turn. You're like, this is a losing.
yeah.
um,
Unless all your stuff has restore,
yeah, yeah.
like Home One comes out, gives all your stuff restore, so not too bad.
Home One's a great card. That's an
Oh yeah,
underrated card in my opinion. All right. Well, there's lots of deck lists. I'll leave some links in the video description of deck lists. We just want to do a brief intro to this format. This is a lot of fun for sort of beer and pretzels format, and
yeah,
we're all
100%.
structured. I think anytime you can get more than one friend to play a card game is just a huge W. And I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing pre-constructed Twin Suns coming out in the future. Maybe not in the next 6 months, but I think a year from now you could see that this is one of the rules of CCGs is people love pre-made stuff. So I
Yeah.
wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing Twin Suns pre-mades. But any kind of final thoughts here, Jared, on this format and what else people should be thinking about?
So right now it's in its infancy, so we're not really the card pool's small, but FFG has said after set 4 releases, the card size minimum deck size is going to increase to 80. So it's going to get bigger, and I think they'll probably make some tweaks to the format to account for that. Maybe make it a little bit longer, or maybe you have to take 2 people out, something like that. Who knows? But
Yeah.
try it
Like
out if you haven't tried it. Um, net deck a list, go look at something, build something fun, get some friends together and try it out. That's my advice for everyone.
Yeah, and one final point here as well is I think that this format can be a little more affordable as well because you're only one copying of units. You don't need 3 Vaders, 3 Bobas,
Right.
whatever. Obviously, you still need to pay for 1 Vader and 1 Boba, but I think you can make a little more affordable deck building for people that are maybe on a budget. So Twin Suns might be something to try out there. But
Yeah.
um, So, anyways, that's all my thoughts on Twin Suns. A lot of fun. Like I said, there's some deck lists in the video description. You guys want to check that out. But thanks for hanging out, everybody. We've got more content coming, so like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and we'll catch you next time.